love you. We love you. What's it like, you played a mother in this film. What's it like being like the mother of the internet?
I have to admit, I don't fully understand it. Because I'm not a mother. I have dogs, and I'm obsessed with them, and I love children, sort of. But it's not really, so I'm happy to have an internet full of children, I guess. Is Rebecca here? Rebecca, I love you.
Hi! Amazing. Well, very cool. So, I kind of want to start from the beginning. We're showing 2 of your films tonight, which I'm super excited about. We'll start from the beginning. I read a little bit about your background growing up, and you didn't have any family in the industry, really.
No.
So how did you kind of know that acting was your thing? Man, here you go.
I think I sort of came into the world, I was in utero, just like probably doing scenes and acting. I feel like I came out of the womb that way as an actress. So I don't really know why or how. There's no one in my family who does it. So I think my grandmother had aspirations, but grew up in the deep South and didn't really, know how she would go about that, and never really pursued it. So I always felt like I was. And I actually copied her mother's hair for this movie, this wig. I brought in a photograph of 4 generations of women in my family. My mother as a small child, her mother, and her mother, and her mother's mother. And I copied that braid from that picture, which is so cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. She's started on stage.
Someone's in trouble, guys. Someone's in trouble. That's what that means. I feel like, do we wait and make sure there's it makes me nervous.
Totally. It's not like
an Amber Alert or something.
Oh,
It's like horrible.
It's not a death story.
Somebody's been taken. It's a different kind of horror movie, right?
For sure, yes. So you started on the stage.
Yes.
And I love the theater. There's just something about a film actor with a stage background that's just, it's different. So you have Tonys, you have...
I have 1 Tony. I like being made of pearl as a sort of like...
Emmys.
1 Emmy, 1 Tony.
Do you navigate these kind of spaces differently when you kind of like go into things?
Sure, I do actually. Although I have been since I played Linda Tripp in American Crime Story. You guys are so supportive. It's so nice. Nobody liked that program, and nobody liked me in it except for me. Critically, they're like, she sucks. But to me, it's the greatest work I've ever done. To me. So I started working with this woman named Julia Crockett, who is a movement instructor. I can't wait to tell her you guys did that. And she has sort of changed the way I work. And so even though I brought her with me on this movie, and we were drawn from all these incredible Dorothy Lang photos from the time period, and the women sort of stood with their shoulders forward, and they were obviously carrying an enormous burden given what they were going through. And so we sort of adopted some of that. They're always like pressing their. This is a little homage to Jessica Lange as well. Touching her chest when she acts. She does this a lot, and so I brought a lot of that into this. And so I brought that woman also with me when I did the play Appropriate that I just finished a couple months ago. And it was a different way of working in a way. Partly just because it's sort of weird, but I love doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And I know they say that's the definition of insanity. It was expecting a different result, but on stage, you're at the theater the same night, same time, every night. You're doing the same material every night. You're working with the same people. The main difference is the audience is different every night. And so they're sort of bringing in their day, their, 2 martinis they've had before the performance, which you can always tell as actors out there, like, guy in G7 is asleep. You can just tell that they've, had a big meal. Friday, Saturday nights, worst shows ever. It's like, really, the worst ever. Some got dragged to the theater by their husband or the wife, and they're just like, God damn, I don't know how much this is. But yeah, there's something about doing a play where you never really get a rest. You sort of strap in at the beginning of the show, you go for the ride till the end of the thing. You're doing a movie, you're arguably doing, a scene for a couple of hours, and you go back to your room and you hang out and you wait to come back and do a different scene. And so you have all these sort of breaks which give you an opportunity to kind of check out, which I don't like as much. It's much harder to continue to dip out and dip back in, whereas when you do a play, once you're doing the show, it feels more like a fully, easier to embody for me.
Yeah, for sure. So this film, Hold Your Breath, we talked about how this game is co-presented by the Blacklist. This is a Blacklist script, which was on this annual list of the best unproduced screenplays. And so what was the process like of you reading this, and it coming into your lap, and you wanting to sign on?
Well, actually, I mean, is it really gauche me to say this, but I think Claire Foy was going to do this movie. And then we decided not to do this movie, and so I got to do this movie. Which was, and I don't know what the reasons were why she didn't do it, but I don't really care, because I got to do it instead. And it was just sent to me by my agent, and she said she had read it, and she thought it was really good, and I was really interested actually in working with filmmakers who were having their first experience making a full-length feature. That seemed really exciting to me, and I just thought, what an interesting thing to have a horror movie or a psychological thriller / horror movie that is grounded. Really, the spine of the movie is a story of a mother who is sort of in the midst of a terrible grief, having lost her youngest child, and what the descent into madness becomes purely out of this fear of not being able to protect her children. And that sort of hypervigilance just, I don't know about you, but I just feel like a hair's breadth away all the time from just being it's just like, it just feels really possible to me in a creepy way. It's always just that sanity piece is I don't know. It feels like a tenuous hold I've got on it,
For sure. And it's Young Fest, and I feel like you have so many iconic roles within genre and playing around horror, thriller, all the collaborations with Murphy. And so what kind of draws you to this space?
I think it's really simple for me because I am really drawn to it, and it's why I do it over and over and over again. I'm so grateful to all of you who give a shit about me doing this kind of thing. Because, I really love it the most because I feel like you are always, it is an opportunity where you can always play stakes. I feel like there are a lot of actors now and a lot of style of working where people think being casual is really cool. And I feel like caring a lot is really cool. And I feel like in this genre, it is always a sort of live and die kind of moment that you're reading a character. And so the stakes are high, you can have extreme reactions, which I like to have. And also, I was just, my mother has called me Sarah Bernhardt since the day I was, able to speak. And I think it was like, just partly how I'm wired. I have big reactions to small things and big reactions to big things, and it sort of lends itself to this world, and I really, really love doing it. I feel a lot of freedom in it.
Yes, for sure, and we love that you do it. And your co-stars here, your children in the film were so fantastic. I had to kind of bring myself back into it because I was like, this is not a real family. And you all just blend together really well. What was it like kind of building up that chemistry?
Well, I love working also with people who are really having their first experiences. I had that experience with Lupita on 12 Years a Slave, with Lizzie Olsen and Martine, where you have these, you're like, oh, I'm getting this really wonderful view of a career that's about to take off. And I kind of like feeling like the old lady who's like, let me tell you about something that happened. And they're like, yeah, what? It's like someone who actually wants to listen to what you have to say. So that's been really cool. And Amaya, who plays Rose, made this tape that was the most we share an agent, and she slipped me the tape, and I saw it, and I called Carrie and Will, and I was like, I think this girl is so incredible. And Carrie and Will watched the tape, and they were like, we love her too. And so it happened very organically. And Alona, who's so special, I think, and I hope we'll continue to do this. She's not sure. I just saw her in Toronto. She's like, wow.
It's Toronto.
I was like, the difference between me and you at that age is what? And I was like, it's really good, it's really good, it's really good. When I come in the movie, I'd be like, I'm so famous.
Totally not tip.
Yeah, it's like, you're a tip, bitch. This is a big deal. It's like, it seemed really just nonplussed. Someone's still in shock. I'm really nervous about this person. You know?
And then this, we talked a little bit about this descent that your character takes, that switch where at first, as an audience member, you're like, what is going on? Like, who is it? And that tonal switch, how did you kind of like go about that with the directors and just navigating that?
I had a big calendar in my trailer that was like the size of my trailer wall that had every single day that took place in the movie and the different moments that were Margaret's reality, Margaret's dream state, or waking dream state, or nightmare state, reality. It was the only way I could keep track of it. It was really hard to, because it's up to me, with the filmmakers' help, to kind of calibrate how far each time so that I knew there was always further to go. And it was hard to kind of sort that out just mentally. I had to have a way of referencing it. So sometimes I would like run back to my trailer and be like, oh yeah, not the crazy number 4 today, not like crazy number 12. So it's like sometimes technical like that.
But you don't shoot in order. Right?
No, my God, I think we shot some of it. Well, the very, very end of the movie, we actually shot, I think, on the last day. My death scene was the last day. I probably still have dirt in my ear. I mean, like, I was like, no, you just put it on me. It was like, just put a giant thing of dirt just like into my ear. And I was like, I don't need that. It's just really crazy. It's the dirtiest movie I've ever made. I would just stand there like a freak too, and be like, more wind! This is bullshit! I want more wind! Like, it's not safe. I was like, I don't fucking care! I can't do it if I have to fake it. I just, they're like, we'll put it in the post. I was like, no! More dirt, yeah.
But any other moments that like popped up during?
Well, it was just like 7 Ritter fans that were humongous, blowing, 65 miles per hour, maybe like more, and they're like, we can't go about 75 miles per hour, and I was like, I'm not a pussy. We can't do that. And I was like, why? I'm an EP. I'm saying it's okay. And you're doing it to me. The kids are not in this shot. Just do it. I got into a little tussle with the Disney safety person. And I won. I was like, more. But it's only going to make the movie better if I'm really like, I really can't see. There were a couple times I was like, okay, guys. I actually, like, the camera guy walked right into me. I was like, I know, we can't see it.
I think the original title of the script was Dust.
It was Dust, and Will and Carrie, our directors, were like, every time we complained, they were like, it was in the fucking title, man. We weren't making it up. Why are you acting surprised? And that is so dusty.
The next film that the audience is going to see what you just mentioned, Martha, Marcy, and Marlene. And that was Sean Dickens' director review.
Yes.
Any memories that pop up from that?
Oh God, I remember so many things about that movie, including how horrible the little hotel place we were staying in, but we were all together, so it was kind of like being a camp. And but the main thing that I remember was there were all of these sort of beautifully written spare scenes between me and Hugh Dancy. And then I kept thinking like, oh, we're gonna do the scene today, it's gonna be so great. And then Hugh and I would be standing like this far apart, and Lizzie Olsen would be all the way over there in the other room, and the camera would just be between us, between me and Hugh, basically not on either of our faces, and just a long shot on Lizzie Olsen. And I remember Hugh and I were like, I don't think we're gonna get on camera. So it was like a lot of our, because he was doing that very brilliant thing of putting us inside Martha's experience, which was hearing us talk but not seeing us, because she was sort of having a bad day and staring outside the window and just hearing us. So there was a lot of that where I didn't think it would be shot in this sort of to me at that time, it felt like a not traditional way.
Yeah.
Because it was inside her experience and how she was experiencing us, not really our narrative and our experience, and what we were doing and dealing with experiencing her back in our lives. So that was interesting and sort of painful because it meant a lot of my scenes weren't photographed. but that's really, and I remember also just being sort of startled by Elizabeth Olsen and her talent and thinking, and also how really sort of regular she was. She had no airs about her that were, and I don't know why I had some idea that just because her siblings were famous actors and clothing designers, and that somehow it meant, because she grew up in a Hollywood family, which I had not grown up in. I just thought inherently you would be some sort of monster. In fact, she's just like one of the greatest people I've ever had the good fortune of working with. Yeah. And right at the jump, and every time I see her, she's exactly the same. So
amazing. Yeah. Love to hear those stories. And you said you like working with people at their first kind of juncture. That was Sean's and Elizabeth's as well. So were there any conversations with Sean before coming on? Before you kind of like, took a chance?
Yeah, I mean, I remember thinking I wasn't sure he was an American. His script was so, it almost seemed like English wasn't his first language. I say that because it was so spare. It was just like, I think sometimes, I don't know, I think about like great American writers, I think about Tennessee Williams or Arthur Miller and some, these are all playwrights, but I think of them as sort of, incredibly robust and kind of words, sentences packed with a lot of description, a lot of kind of, extra stuff, verbose, but more just like a beautifully crafted sentence. And this was not like that. This was much more, I think, the way people talk, but it was the spareness. Like when I watched the movie, I was like, oh, there was so much, all the air is kind of taken out and also kind of shoved in there too. It's a quiet, still movie in a lot of ways, and it was like that on the page. It was pretty.
Yeah. Who has seen it?
Yeah, who has seen it?
Okay.
Pretty nice.
Yeah. Good. We do have some time for audience questions.
I love an audience question.
Yeah, let's do it. Who's got some good ones?
I saw him right up there in the center, and I love that person.
Yes.
Yes,
you in the center.
Right there. I don't know your name. You. Yes. You.
Yes.
You.
Yep. You.
Yeah. You. Shout it out.
So I really liked the performance very much.
Thank you.
And I found very interesting when you talked about the source of the mission and structure. So my question is, how was it to build that character, and how was the collaboration with director?
It's very interesting because I've been very lucky. You would think a director might be quite threatened by having, it feels like she's a director of sorts, because she does come up to me in the middle of, I've done a take, and I will talk to Will and Carrie or whomever's directing and have that conversation, but then Julia is kind of the last person I talk to, and she'll sort of remind me of something physical. It happened with Linda a lot, where she's like, you have to remember to clasp your chest and try to use your nose. It's like Linda was such a gossip that we imagined that she would smell something before she would hear something, whereas we imagined Margaret had like a kind of special ear where she could hear really, really sonically, almost like an animal, like the way you see a deer's ear kind of go backwards, so that, she was so focused on hearing everything that we imagined. I imagined that a lot, so Julia would just look at me sometimes and be like, oh yeah, copy that. So that was a really cool way of working, and I think Carrie and Will were really receptive to it, because I think in the early days of rehearsal, when she was around and we were first on set, I think they liked what they saw. And I can imagine someone else being like, you gotta let me be the last person to speak to you before, meeting the director, before we roll. And they really weren't like that. It was really collaborative. It was lucky, because I can imagine that it could easily not be that way.
Yes, you're on it.
Well, first of all, I wanted to say, I used to, in high school, had a little cardboard cutout of you, Sarah.
You make me feel really old, man. I'm kidding. You might be 40 for all I know.
39.
Excellent.
I was curious, of course, like, watching the film now, lots to do with, like, quarantine and things like that. I know you said it was on the blacklist, so I don't know if it was written before or after COVID.
It was pre-COVID she wrote this.
Okay, so I wonder, like, was there anything that maybe you or the cast and crew went in that sort of changed that, and now being in like a post-COVID world?
I mean, we were shooting the movie smack in the middle of it, so like everybody was wearing masks, the whole crew, our directors. We would wear masks when we were on camera, so we were tested a lot still. So it was a really kind of present component of the movie, of making the movie. We were really thinking about it, because it was impossible not to. Our directors actually got COVID and tried to direct the movie from a trailer nearby. That didn't work so well, so we had to shut down for over 10 days. And so I found myself like walking around Santa Fe going like, you know, like you're in the middle of making a thing and you feel really, at least I do anyway, which makes me kind of a nerdy actor, but I don't care. I get really involved and immersed in it, and I was like, oh, now I feel like I'm treading water for 10 days doing nothing. I don't know what to do with myself and with all this energy that is about this person I'm playing in this world I'm doing. I didn't want to be pulled out of it. So that was sort of frustrating, but we were really supported by the studio, and then we got the time to finish it, and it was great. So it was definitely something to contend with, for sure.
Wow.
Where's that cardboard cutout now? That's what I want to know. Where is
I just
it?
moved here to LA.
Don't care, where is it?
It's in a few boxes right
Sure. Sure.
Over here. Oh, me?
Yes.
Oh, hi, big fan. The movie
Hi.
was insane, but you were
Oh.
incredible.
Thank you.
I was wondering, so when you're, playing a new character and you think about their background,
Mhm.
do you think about like silly things like their zodiac sign? Like their personality?
That's a great question. I think I would only think about it if it was really clear that that person was a fucking Scorpio. Like, then I think I would be like, that would be really part of my thinking. But I've not ever really done that, but
Yeah, you thought
Dear
about
Diary, you know what I mean? Like, I might be bringing that out. It's really interesting.
what's your sign?
I'm a Sagittarius Virgo rising. Sagittarius Virgo rising, Aquarius moon, which makes me crazy. Like crazy, like a free spirit, control freak, weird dreamer person. I don't know, it's like so weird. Yeah.
And we'll go a little far back. Yes, you right there. Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh, sure. We'll go here and then there. Yep.
Okay.
When you calibrate the levels for your character,
Mm-hmm.
how do you do it so specifically that you could reference them?
This is again a Julia Crockett thing. We came up with particular words that were also underneath all of the descriptions of the level of insanity that Margaret was combating at that moment. And sometimes it would have to do with the way I walked, or whether I just come out of a dream state. So sometimes it was just really story driven, but then there was just the work we did prior to starting to shoot. I watched this horrifying documentary that is one of the great documentaries ever, but it's the most upsetting documentary. I don't eat meat, so for me it's like, this is not about a dairy cow. It's a movie called Cow. Has anyone seen this movie? This is one of the most, like, so our filmmaker was like, I think before we start the movie, you should watch the movie Cow. And I was like, okay. And I watched it. It's the most upsetting movie. It's essentially about a mother cow who is separated from her calf. Is that what they're called? It is the most upsetting movie I've ever seen in my life. And so we used some of those images also from that movie, because the way there's all these shots of this mother cow staring off, and I'm not kidding, with eyelashes as long as, a leg, just like looking at her child that's separated from her. And there's nothing she can do to get to this animal. This animal's gonna grow up to be a dairy cow, just like this cow was, and then that cow's gonna get shot in the head. And so, like, sorry to ruin the ending of the movie for you, but you don't need to watch it, it's too upsetting. But so, hi. mad, so that's what I did.
I can see how that would get you.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
fucked up, pardon my French, Jesus Christ.
I had for a couple more, so I owe you.
Wait, I feel like we thought
Yeah.
it was you, and we would like to hear
I
from you.
owe you.
No, you do it.
You've done so many roles that obviously involve psychology,
Mhm.
and I wonder, it's very effective on your audience. You create great work. For you, do you feel like in the moment it's important that you connect with it psychologically, or is it more about affecting the audience? Or is it not, are you not maybe able to like parse the two out?
It's a very good question. I don't think about you guys at all. I'm not thinking about you at all because I think if I were to be thinking about how it would affect you, then I would be thinking about the result, and then I would be not thinking about what I was doing or what was happening to me as the character, and I'd be worried about whether you like me or think I'm pretty or good or whatever.
Gorgeous.
But I think those things are really, really hard to combat as a woman, period, walking around the planet every day. And then when you have a camera in your face and you gotta watch yourself, it's like, if you ever listen to the sound of your own voice on like a voicemail and how you wanna die? Can you imagine like looking at every, it's hard. And so like, I think at the end of the day, the only way I can do it in a way that feels true and good and worthwhile is to make it inconsequential to me, whether you like it, whether you feel it was worthy. The only thing that has to matter to me is what I feel about it, my connection to the material. So I think the long answer to that is that I'm really thinking about the psychology of the character, what the character wants, and how that is, I'm not really thinking about whether or not it's gonna affect. I mean, I hope it does, of course, but like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not, yeah.
It's not the number one.
I can't. I think it would make me really self-conscious, and then it would make me probably hold back. And nobody wants that, do they?
Oh. Who's got a great last question?
Oh, that's too much pressure.
Right there, yes.
Okay, what are some of like the characters or a character that you like connect with post like working on that project? Like are there still characters that you carry with you throughout other projects or just in general, like in your everyday life as Sarah Paulson?
I think yes. I think it's an occupational hazard for sure. I think I definitely had it with Moss-Bachrach, who was with me for a long time. Same thing happened with Linda Tripp. Same thing happened with the character I just played on Broadway. It was, I think that more than anything actually, was chiefly due to the fact that I did it every day, twice a day on Wednesdays, twice a day on Saturday for almost 8 months. And so like, that's a very long time. It was almost a 3-hour play. So I really lived inside this thing where it was very, very surreal to be finished with it. And I kind of, I made a joke earlier about not having children, and there's probably nothing nerdier than what I'm about to say, but like, every part I play is always going to be part of me and has always come out of me and through me. So for lack of for all intents and purposes, every person I've played or tried to inhabit is a child of mine of sorts, because I am mothering it, I am bringing it into the world, I didn't create it because I didn't write it, but at the end of the day, any really wonderful director, I think, will say that once the actor starts performing the role or starts to inhabit it, it becomes theirs. And so, you try to take as good care of it as you would any other person that you loved or cared about. So they all kind of swirl around in there, which, like I said, makes me one crazy lady, because this is a nutty thing to walk around, your brain knows you are stimulating the fear or the emotion of some kind, but your body does not know that you are not actually hyperventilating and you are not terrified beyond belief. And so there is something that I feel like stays there that is, probably not super healthy on a level. If someone asked me to do a fucking comedy, I would do one, but no one's calling. So I mean, it just feels like I keep going where the interest is and also what speaks to me, and that's, but it's not without its consequence for sure. It's like, it's hard to live with it.
Totally.
On some level.
Your agent's about to get a lot of emails.
I don't know. That was a good last question though, but now I feel like someone else might want to ask a question, I don't know.
Oh,
One more.
Bonus. Do you want to choose?
Oh God, that's a lot of pressure. I want all of you to ask the question at the same time. Okay. Oh yeah. Oh there. Yes, you.
My name's Marissa.
Hi, Marissa.
So I think it's pretty oftentimes in horror movies, the thing that makes it scary is a removal of a sense, you know, being in the dark or being in a dust storm.
Marissa's super smart, guys. Super smart.
Do you think reading a deaf character in the script kind of changed your perspective on that and gave you some insight?
Yes. Yes, I do, and yes, I did. Yes, it did. And that's really interesting. I wish Lona was here and I mean, the coolest thing about that was about having a deaf actress on set playing my daughter was not only did I have to learn ASL, but also they came up with this sort of new way. I mean, some of the sign language is actually the sign language of today, but some of it was also invented. We had a woman on the set named Ann Tomasino who created it with Alona, and it was really kind of cool because they didn't go to a school for the deaf. There was not they were kind of learning how they communicated with one another, and that became their language. But it's true, we did often think about what all of this, Margaret cannot see what it is that's out there. She feels that there is something out there, but Ollie can't hear that there's this. So any of Margaret's reactions that are these sort of startled, jumpy things, you know, you can imagine for her how terrifying that would be. And so it's something we thought about a lot also because it was something Alona was actually experiencing. She wears one of those devices that does allow her to hear a bit, but when we were shooting, she wasn't wearing it at all. Yeah, just in it.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Okay, what about you? Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
What is your favorite Olivia Rodrigo song?
No. I mean, I love her, but I don't know a single one of her songs. I'm sure she's the greatest, but I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't know those songs. I can tell you any Chaperone song, but
Okay, what's your favorite movie that you did with Kate Blanchett?
My favorite movie that I did with Kate Blanchett would be Carol. Incredible.
I think we have to do another one. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Oh my god, now I'm like blanking.
It's
Okay.
okay. She just asked me, oh, my favorite part of it. You can ask me anything you want. You did great. I love you.
I love you.
I love you too. It was good. It was a great question.
Okay, so since you do a lot of horror, you're like very iconic scream queen. You have like American Horror Story, Run, this. Like when you get these projects, like what do you look for to like sort of
Differentiate between all of them,
like,
yeah.
What, yeah.
You know, that's a good question. Yours is a good question too. You know, it's interesting. I'm not always looking for something that's different per se, because they don't always hit me the same way. So it's like, yes, I'm a mother in this, I'm a mother in Run, I understand that but that was sort of a story of a woman who I think was really deranged, whereas this is not that story. This is a woman who, to me, is a woman inside or with, in the throes of an enormous grief spiral. And that's really the spine of the movie for me, is that she is in terrible pain, and she cannot manage that pain very well, not with the prospect of immediate danger and that, you know, someone or something or the dust itself could take another one of her children. So they feel different to me automatically somehow on the page, but I do understand, and I do understand that my scream is the same scream in all of the movies, because guess what? That's how I scream. So, you know, I suppose I could work on coming up with like a different scream, but then that would feel like a lie, and I'm not interested in lying.
Totally. You're talking outside. oh, maybe you would scream during the part of the movie
Yeah.
where you're screaming just like outside.
Yeah, so what if I just did like a scream in the lobby?
Yeah.
It wasn't right at the same moment, people would be like. Yeah.
Thank
Thank you guys.